Adventuring takes advantage of a quick early pace, 23 flat, 46-3, and another win for Florent Giroux and Brad Cox. Congratulations to the winning connections in the $150,000 Bourbonnais Oaks. We will see you most likely on the last Friday in April for the Kentucky Oaks, as we've seen you before. Brad Cox and Florent Giroux. Congratulations. Spritz with a very strong runner-up effort. He was involved in the early pace at 35-1 and kept going. A very game racehorse. 4 for Florent, 3 for Brad Cox as we head to the featured event of the meet, the $250,000 Grade 3 Jeff Ruby Stakes. Yes, that's what I said. And it's 100 points to the winner on the road to the Kentucky Derby. So we likely will see the top 2 finishers in here in the starting gates, assuming they remain healthy and the connections decide to do so. And I thought it was a very interesting rendition of this event with 17 minutes to post. A couple horses up there at 5-2. My top pick, 9-2, currently down from the 10-1 morning line. And that's Hard Ride Guy, who had some hard, tough luck last time out in the Battaglia when he finished 4th, but you could definitely make the argument that the son of Hard Spun was best that day. Came from well out of it to make a big move under Chris Landeros and then got caught inside in one of those situations where, in hindsight, you might say maybe should have gone outside, but when you move up on the inside and save all that ground, it can be the winning move. Had Landeros been able to do it again, I bet he would swing wide, but there was a long objection and inquiry. They ended up keeping the results, but Hard Ride Guy is certainly a horse that continues to get better. The question is, will there be enough pace to chase in the 1 1/8 Jeff Ruby Stakes? That's the question. I thought I was going to get a little bit better price. Hush of a Storm being scratched, of course, a big scratch. That hurt the price. And then, obviously, I'm not the only one that watches replays. Hard Ride Guy's trip was obvious. If they go at it early, Brian Hernandez Jr. should be picking them up late. Hopefully, we'll get a little bit of a drift up to maybe 6 or 7-1. But he is the Twin Spires market mover at this point. My pick for second is number 1, Like the King, up there at 7-1, getting a fair price on this son of Palace Malice, who also makes his second start off the layoff. This one for Wesley Ward, and this one was in a bit tight, and there was a lot going on in that Battaglia. He would have been put up had Hush of a Storm gotten taken down. I don't think that would have been the right call, but they looked at it for a while. And this horse, though, took a significant step forward in his last 2 starts, and neither of them were with the usage of Lasix, which is key to me. I think Drayden Van Dyke, who takes over for Rafael Bejarano in this spot, who rides Hockey Dad for Doug O'Neill, I think Drayden Van Dyke has this tactical speed to sit a pocket trip on a horse that doesn't need the lead, which could work out very well for him. Will a 1 1/8 work to this one's benefit? That remains to be seen, but I think Like the King, a very fair 6-1 right now as the 4th choice in the Jeff Ruby Stakes. As one of the co-favorites up there right now, number 7, Tarantino, who comes in from a pair of efforts in the big prep races at Gulfstream Park. He ran second to Greatest Honor, who will be the favorite coming up next at Gulfstream Park in the Florida Derby. It was a distant second that day. He might have been second best. A couple horses tried to win the race a little bit more. Prime Factor was the favorite, disappointed that day. Then came back and ran a 4th place effort to Greatest Honor that day. Never was really looked like the winner in that race. Drained the clock, put him away, and he kind of held on for 4th. He's run the fastest races. Now, whether you look at Theragraph numbers like I do, Brisnet speed ratings, whatever you look at, Tarantino has the fastest numbers for this race. But they're not over the all-weather like the 3 horses coming out of the Battaglia that aren't too far behind him. So the question is, will this son of Pioneer of the Nile take to the all-weather surface here in Florence? Probably. He's run well on turf. He's run well on dirt. But that's probably why he's 5-2 instead of 9-5 right now, as he looks to find his spot in the Kentucky Derby starting gates on the first Saturday in May. Number 10 is Gretzky the Great, who ran a big race off the bench for trainer Mark Cassie as the even money favorite in the Battaglia. He was overbet that day off of those efforts as a 2-year-old at Woodbine, but very forgivable effort. He was forced to run from start to finish from his inside draw. Never got a breather. Pico de Oro, who we saw earlier in the card, pressed him from start to finish to set things up for his stablemate Hush of the Storm. And Gretzky the Great kept running a bit to finish third. You could argue he may have needed the race. He hadn't run since the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. Probably the ultimate goal being this race, not the Battaglia. For trainer Mark Cassie, Eclipse Thoroughbred Partners, and Gary Barber, powerful connections. Now moves to an outside post, which could give Chris Landeros options out of the gate. Now, Gretzky the Great's always been a horse that's been prominently placed. Wouldn't expect the different tactics. But unlike being from the rail, if this horse sends from the outside and other horses send harder, I think Chris has a horse that's able to relax just off the early pace if need be. We'll see if the outside post benefits him. It didn't in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf, but that's a different animal than this race, and he's a little bit older. So if he's matured, he certainly could sit a perfect trip in here. He is bet down from the 5-1 morning line to 5-2, but that was expected given the scratch of Hush of a Storm. Let's take a look next at the number 12, Hockey Dad, who ships in from California for trainer Doug O'Neill and Redham Racing, the same connections that won the Derby with Nyquist just a few years ago. And this one is by Nyquist out of a damn and Summers Gold by Yankee Victor. 3 straight wins, but all against Calbreds. So the competition gets a lot stiffer here for Hockey Dad. But Rafael Bejarano, not sure again what the plan was here. But the fact that he takes the call over Like the King is a little bit noteworthy. He has some history with O'Neill from his time spent in California, but it's not as if he owed him to ride this race. So who knows? Maybe he locked him up earlier. Doesn't make sense to me that he would ride this horse over Like the King, but who knows? He comes in from Santa Anita, no works over the all-weather surface. That's a little bit of a disadvantage to me. Getting caught wide into that first turn or getting, it can be a problem as well. Other horses with his tactical speed. We'll see how Bejarano plays it and if he can get him out of the gate in good order in his first try over the all-weather surface. Number 5 is Sainthood here, making his 3rd lifetime start for Hall of Famer Todd Pletcher. The first one was a 1-turn race at Gulfstream Park at 6 panels. And he took a tough beat that day in a pretty live group after hopping at the start. Lost nothing in defeat that day at 5-1. And then came back at the even money favorite going 2 turns at Fairgrounds on February 13th on the undercard for the Risen Star. And just held off the older Grand in the lane to win that race and basically give Todd the chance to ship into Florence for this one. Another horse that likes to be on or near the lead. We'll see how Corrales plays it. But a lot of horses with similar running styles. We'll see how things go. Very excited for the $250,000 Jeff Ruby Stakes. 100 points to the winner on the road to the Kentucky Derby leaderboard. 9 minutes to post. Best of luck.
The horses on the track for our featured 50th running of the Grade 3 Jeff Ruby Stakes. $250,000 guaranteed stake event to go a mile and 1/8 and also a road to the Kentucky Derby points race. Let's meet the field for the Jeff Ruby. Number 1, Like the King, owned by the M Racing Group LLC, trained by Wesley Ward with Drayden Van Dyke. Scratch 2, Hush of a Storm. Number 3, King's Ovation, owned by the Peacock Stable, in partnership with West Point Thoroughbreds LLC, trained by Dale Romans, jockey changed to Santiago Gonzalez. Number 4, Awesome Jerry, owned by John Finelli, Cash's King, LC Racing, Paul Braverman and Timothy Pinch, trained by Safi Joseph Jr. with Martin Garcia. Number 5 is Sainthood, owned by Windstar Farm, LLC, in partnership with the China Horse Club, Incorporated, trained by Todd Pletcher with Gerardo Corrales. Number 6 is the Outlaw Family Stable, Smiley Sabatka, trained by Dale Romans with Declan Cannon. Number 7, Tarantino, owned by the SF Racing LLC, Starlight Racing, Madaket Stable, Stone Street Stable, and the Golconda Stables, trained by Rudy Brissett with Florent Giroux. Number 8 is Moonlight Strike, owned by the Sonata Stable, trained by Safi Joseph Jr. with Rafael Hernandez. Number 9 is Hard Rye Guy, owned by the Bourbon Lane Stable, trained by Ian Wilkes, Brian Hernandez Jr. up top. Number 10 is Eclipse Thoroughbred Partners and Gary Barber's Gretzky the Great. He's trained by Mark Cassie with Chris Landeros. Number 11, Dynamite, owned by Brad Allshouse, trained by Keith DeSormo with Deshaun Parker. And completed the field for the Ruby, number 12, Hockey Dad, owned by Redham Racing LLC, trained by Doug O'Neill with Rafael Bejarano. That's the field of 11 3-year-olds to go a mile eighth in the Ruby. 50th edition up next in 6 minutes. Win, play, show, exacta, try, super, late double, and also super high five wagering. Best of luck. 6 minutes. And they are off in the 50th edition of the Jeff Ruby Stakes. Not the best start for Tarantino. He broke in a tangle, but it was a fast one for Gretzky the Great. Also, Awesome Jerry quick into stride from between horses. Sainthood as they race by us for the first time. Moonlight Strike's part of the pace presence. So into the first turn to the inside, Sainthood. Moonlight Strike to the outside, now crosses and clears as they take on the first turn, where Moonlight Strike, really headstrong, shows the way 2.5 lengths. Sainthood has deferred to second. Gretzky the Great stalking to the outside in third. Down on the inside, Awesome Jerry is fourth early. Hockey Dad out in the clear from fifth. Dynamite is sixth and about 7 or 8 off the pace. Then comes Like the King, who's moving with tandem with Hard Rye Guy, then a link further back to King's Ovation, and a couple links further back to Smiley Sabaka, and almost all but pulled up. Tarantino, the big favorite, is at least 30 links out of it up the backside. Quarter was 22-4, half mile 46-4. Moonlight Strike, the leader, shows away by a length and a half, just outside a half mile to go in the Ruby. Gretzky the Great still second. Hockey Dad in the clear from third. Sainthood to the inside in fourth. Dynamite now moves a closer fifth. There goes Hard Rye Guy up to the outside, cut loose to the inside. Awesome Jerry, Like the King, is being asked to quicken. Then King's Ovation, Smiley Sabaka as they race around the turn. 3/4, 111-3, and here they come, 4 abreast outside the quarter pole. Hockey Dad comes calling for the lead. Gretzky the Great to the inside. Dynamite a 3 wide third, and Hard Rye Guy set to pounce from fourth. In behind horses, Sainthood has found his feet, and Like the King is closing in. Many chances as they turn on down in the 50th edition of the Ruby. And up to the outside, Hard Rye Guy just exchanged bumps with Like the King, but Like the King nonetheless is forging to the front outside the 16th pole. It's Like the King in front. Down along the inside, Hockey Dad still fighting on. Late on the scene, Sainthood down to the wire. Hockey Dad, Like the King. Like the King was brilliant in the Ruby. Like the King, impressive, running down the pace setters to win, going away in the Ruby, and stops the timer in 1:50-1. Like the King for the M Racing Group and Wesley Ward, home a winner in the 50th edition of the Jeff Ruby Stakes. Ladies and gentlemen, there will be no change. No change to the order of finish. The results will stand as is. 1, 5, 12, 9, 10. No change. Up in the winner's circle, number 1, Like the King, who ruled the Ruby. A 3-year-old chestnut colt by Palace Malice out of the Corinthian mare named Like a Queen. The winner is owned by Mickey Gonzalez's M Racing Group LLC, trained by Wesley Ward and ridden to victory by Drayden Van Dyke. Number 1, Like the King, home a winner, 150-1, and number 1, Like the King, will receive 100 Kentucky Derby points and a guaranteed spot in the gate on that first Saturday in May, on May 1st. Now, Like the King, just waiting on a slight tote delay for the official sign to be posted here for the 11th race, but at this time, Turfway Park staff and management would like to direct your attention into the winner's circle, where a trophy presentation being made to the winning connections of the 50th running of the Grade 3 Jeff Ruby Stakes. The winner number 1, Like the King, M Racing Group, Wesley Ward, and Drayden Van Dyke. Accepting the trophy, making the presentation, Senator John Schickel and Representative Adam Koenig. Senator Schickel and Representative Koenig, strong supporters of Turfway Park, and we appreciate their friendship as they're making the trophy presentation to Wesley Ward, Drayden Van Dyke, and M Racing Group for their victory with number 1, Like the King, here in the Ruby.